So what is that data security problem? Because there are many, but there's one very urgent problem, I would say. And in a sense, if you think about all the data that a company has, 80% of it is structured, roughly 20% of it is the opposite. 80% of it is unstructured, 20% of it is structured. So 20% of it is in databases, 80% of that data is in files, mainly in files. And when you say files, let's think about what exactly we mean by that. So files fly throughout your organization everywhere. Think about everywhere where you have files. Not only your on-prem storage, cloud repositories, that's where we begin. That's where the data protection problem begins. But what about all of those attachments in emails? And what about now a new problem of files flying through Teams messages or Slack messages? What about if you're a service provider, maybe in healthcare or a financial institution, and you have a customer-facing portal or a partner-facing portal or a consumer-facing portal for this sake. And your users are uploading content, files, through that portal that is then being consumed by different functions within your company. These files have a life of their own. They come in, they go out, they move east-west, and they find themselves and the derivatives of themselves in many different parts of the organization. In collaboration tools, in messaging tools, in repositories, they're all over the place. These files can be modified and changed, obviously. They can be weaponized. They can present many different types of risks, including malware risks and privacy risks. And at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to ensure that the private data contained within these files, which again is 80% of the data you have, and it's more than doubling every year, that data is safe. Safe from whom? Safe from malicious bad actors, safe from unintentional misuse internally, and safe from insider threat, which can be malicious. So we're going to look at that whole universe of data and see what is the best possible way to keep that data safe, while at the same time making it usable and making it such that the data and the content within those files are usable immediately, and we're not holding it back from users that actually need it. So how do we do that? Okay. So Votiro is out on a mission. Votiro, we're a US-based company. We've been around for a while. We've been around for the past 12 years. And initially, we focused on malware prevention. We've just launched a new data detection and response offering. And we are out on a mission that says the following. We're going to protect data, but not only in the single sense of finding private data. There are many vendors out there, great, impressive vendors, some of which I've had the privilege of working for, that can find that data. We are out on a mission to protect that data in real time from the real-time risks for data in motion. Instead of looking only at data at rest, we're looking at data in motion, content in motion, and we're making it safe. Safe from what? Safe from the two sides of the data risk, the two sides of the coin of data risks. The first one is private data exists within content. We do not want the wrong individuals to be exposed to it. The second side of that risk is that files, unstructured data, can carry with them the risk of ransomware and malware. That ransomware or malware coming in will end up landing somewhere and in an intention to exfiltrate that private data. So let's look at those two sides of that data risk problem, and let's figure out how we can mitigate it. How can we prevent it instead of dealing with the mess after the fact? How can we deal with that problem in real time to ensure that it actually never happens? And with that, I'd like to start with a simple and easy demo. I'm a very visual person. I prefer showing than talking. Who am I kidding? I am a product leader. I love talking as well. So let's get going. I'm going to walk you through quickly a demonstration of the problem set which we have just talked about. And with that, I will need the demo to actually start playing. There you go. Okay. So we're out on a mission. We're going to look at several different files, and we're going to look at both sides of the problem, the malware risk and the privacy risks. Usually when we sit down with customers, we and prospects, we go through a discovery process to identify where the risks are. We're now going to look specifically at risks within OneDrive. So you're an organization, you've just moved your data from on-prem to cloud with Microsoft. It's all in Office 365, which is great. However, you start using your OneDrive, and what we're seeing on the screen is a user uploading two types of files into OneDrive. The first one is a resume. You're an HR team, you're uploading a resume into your OneDrive location. And at the same time, I also uploaded a password protected file just to show the depth of how we can go into files. So what is that resume? So we're looking at a normal looking resume, which contains some private information at the bottom and has already been weaponized, as you can see at the top, with this surprise zip, which is a zipped archive, which we've created with malware inside. So we're going to scan using the Votiro platform that folder. Now, this can be done statically. You can scan a folder. You can also, at the same time, you can also ensure that security and safety in real time as the file is being uploaded or downloaded. What you've just seen is that within split second, within less than a second, that file that was uploaded into OneDrive, the private data has been detected and has been masked in real time. At the same time, that malware hidden within a zipped archive was actually dismantled. And because it was password protected, now it was replaced with a PDF, which allows you, the user, to type in your password. That same password protected file would have flown through your antivirus, your endpoint detection, your sandbox. None of them would have detected it. What Votiro does is we allow the user to decrypt that password, we make it safe, and we deliver it to the user in real time. So let's talk a little bit about what we just saw. Within the Votiro platform, it's not only that we make the file safe from a threat, malware, ransomware perspective in real time, we also ensure that the private data is detected and is being hidden, masked, or redacted from the users that should not be seeing that file. But we've looked here at a very specific use case, right? We've looked here at a use case where you're moving into the cloud, you've uploaded your data into OneDrive, and now you have 10,000 files in OneDrive, which you'd like to scan and understand what you have there. Traditional tools will allow you in some cases to scan partially that data and see what you have. The challenge is that 2 seconds later, another 10,000 files are being uploaded. And while those files in real time are being added into your storage, the problem persists. More malware and ransomware is coming in that can then exploit vulnerabilities, and more private data is being uploaded, which can then be shared wrongfully with the wrong individuals. Let's talk about data detection and response, because I'd like to point out the key aspects in my mind of what a good, reasonable data detection and response platform should do for you. The first thing is, if you think about the risks of private data, exist PII, PHI, PCI, credentials, all of that private data that exists everywhere, the first thing we need to do is to be able to detect where that private data lives and where it moves. So not only which folders and repositories it's in, but what Slack channels is it being traversing through? Which email addresses is it hitting? Which portals is private data coming in through? which SaaS applications are being uploaded with a bunch of private data. That entire story provides you the right visibility to see who is using private data and where it's being shared. At the same time, you'd like to have, it would be nice if you could have that same level of visibility also to whether that information contains threat to your network, to your endpoints, to your SaaS applications. The second step is if you've already detected the problem, and this is for me the parting line between historical data protection and where we should be now, or where we should be in the future. In the past, data detection was focused on mainly seeing the problem. That's one option. There are tools out there that can show you the problem and then suggest a remediation. Maybe open a ticket that says, hey, you should remove credential access for that specific folder, or maybe you should be cleaning up this repository, which is all good and all true. That is very, very valuable. However, wouldn't it be nice if we could actually automate the remediation? Wouldn't it be more efficient if that remediation would be happening in real time? Because then the SOC team and the IT security teams could stop focusing on 100 or 1,000 or 5,000 tickets every day and move on to focusing on more strategic matters. So one aspect of kind of legacy tools is the aspect of visibility versus remediation, where the second side of that coin is that legacy tools that have focused on remediation were either very difficult to configure or would take a very harsh stance, which is if something is suspicious or if something contains private data, just block it. Hold it back from the user. That's kind of a harsh stance which holds back the business. Because if I'm an HR person and I need that resume to do my job, or if I'm a loan processor, and I need to read a loan application which my customer is sending in, and for some reason my system is determining that that is a risky file, how do I do my job? How do I process that loan? How do I approve it? So it would be nice for a data detection and response platform to fully remediate in real time, make the file safe, ensure that private data is available only for those that are allowed to see it and not for those who are not, and deliver it to the end user in split seconds in real time. But the last point, last but not least, is real-time, rich, actionable analytics. So let's talk about what that means. Analytics in the old days, and I'm a bit exaggerating here with the definition of old, but analytics usually are treated as urgent analytics, analytics that require immediate action. One of your platforms, be it Sandbox or antivirus or DLP or endpoint detection, is raising a red flag. Something is wrong. Immediately take action. Your SOC team will jump on it like ninjas, which is great. It's all good. However, is that the most efficient way to do things? I claim not, because what I prefer is a system which remediates for me automatically in real time and provides me the context in analytics and rich analytics to understand what is happening here. Who is being targeted? Is it my CFO being targeted with a bunch of malware, which we've already removed, but we want to understand the context. Is it that this specific user has been trying to upload private data or is not legitimately exposed to private data? Now, if that has already been remediated, there's no immediate action that you need to take. But you still need to be aware that this is happening within your organization. So later on, you can take remediation action, which goes beyond the immediate remediation and cleansing of data. Maybe change a process, maybe educate a user, maybe take disciplinary action. There are many different things you can do, not in real time. Real time should be reserved for AI and SaaS platforms, not for humans who need to act at that single moment in time. I'd like to show a second quick demo I know we love demos, and that is exactly what we're going to do. And there you go. So once again, Votiro is out to solve the problem of private data that moves in real time. We're going to disarm threat, and we're going to detect private data. But this time, let's talk about a problem, which is the first problem I always hear from every single company that comes to Votiro. We've deployed Teams. We're using Teams now. However, it's risky. And because it's risky, because I'm concerned about the content traveling through Teams, what I'm going to do as a company is probably limited. And limited maybe only to text messaging. What you're seeing on the screen is what Votiro does. So here's a user that maybe an HR person that received a resume, or a salesperson that received a purchase order. And they're sending that resume or purchase order or loan application over a Teams message or a Slack message. That is the same old resume we just saw from a few minutes ago, which has PII in it and has been weaponized with a malware that we've included inside. The message has been sent. This time, I want to dig a little bit deeper into what really happened here. So what you're seeing on the screen inside the Votiro platform is a drill down into the content. We've taken that single small 40 kilobyte file. We've broken it down into 42 different objects, XMLs, everything that builds a Word document. It is pretty complex. And what we found inside that Word document is a hidden action that calls the operating system to do something malicious. At the same time, we found private data within that file. And we've decided based on policy and context and identity, whether to mask it or not. And in that split second, in that several milliseconds, when that file was sent, it has already been masked based on policy. Again, you can choose which types of private data you want to mask, which you don't. Do you even want to do that or not? Because maybe based on context, you do not. And it has been made safe from malware and ransomware. So what you've seen here, and what you're seeing now on the screen, is the level of granular analytics that you can receive. Who is being targeted, how they're being targeted, the mechanism of attack and entry point, the sequence of events. And obviously, the details on what types of PII are at risk, who is being targeted or who is uploading and behaving in a suspicious manner, and then what do we need to do in order to take action. I will move forward quickly. And I will just mention that Votiro, as a SaaS platform, is an open API platform that can integrate natively into different environments, applications, in the cloud and on-prem. So file sharing environments, collaboration environments, email, collaboration tools, SaaS applications, web portals, anywhere where files move. And the way we do that magic is by grabbing that file in real time, quickly quickly processing it and delivering that file in real time to the user, free of privacy risks, free of malware risks. And actually, when talking about malware, free of the zero-day attacks. Okay. We don't do that alone. As a security platform, we can actually integrate with any one of these environments which support that same mission of keeping data safe. Obviously, we have a better slide over here. Exactly. So, for example, the way we add value to an endpoint detection tool would be by minimizing the amount of unsafe data moving onto the endpoint, and by that, making that endpoint detection tool more efficient. Lowering the false positives, making that tool more efficient. All of that information, which is the context and content I just showed you, actually also can be sent into a SIM tool or an XDR tool for broader visibility. Data detection and response can actually also be co-located with DLP tools and DSPM in order to provide richer context and to extend that capability also to remediation. I see we're almost up on time, so I'd like to open up for questions.
All right. Make sure my camera was focused in the right place. There we go. So Eric, thanks for that. Always good to get a good, sort of walkthrough of exactly what the platform is about. And for everybody that's attending, throw some questions out there. Eric is here to answer them, and you can do that either in Zoom or you can do that over in Slack. Either one is going to work pretty well for this. But we do have one question that came in, and that question is, notice that you mentioned things like XDR. How do you integrate with things like remote browser isolation?
No, that's a great point. So, we've mentioned all of these environments where files come in, email or collaboration tools. Many companies are now deploying SSE or SASE projects, which really focus on the connectivity to cloud environments and web environments. Those environments do a really good job in connecting the user safely to where it should be connected and looking at the content. We actually deep dive into the content in order to make the content safe as well. So imagine a user downloading a file through your SSE provider. That file can be hijacked by Votiro, made safe, detected, and delivered to the user in real time through that browser download.
Got it. No, and that's great, because I think we've been talking a little bit about browsers today in general, and I think everybody's starting to sort of view this juxtaposition of web services and SaaS services and cloud storage, and then that sort of ultimate tie into the endpoint, right, where people are originating and trying to access content or potentially to have things downloaded. And it just seems like this is a ripe area to make sure that we're getting some integration. So thank you for that. Quick question that came in from Leopold, and interpret this as you will, because I think he's looking for a little clarification, saying, hey, he figured that Microsoft 365 would be scanning files during upload, or is that only with certain Microsoft 365 plans? Maybe just explain the differentiator there.
Mm-hmm. So that's actually a really, really good question, and it's a point of confusion for many, many companies. You assume that when you buy your Microsoft plan, it will provide everything for your Microsoft environment, which we know is not the case. It's a great platform. Microsoft always builds platform for the ecosystem, so us other vendors can add value. It really depends on whether you have E3 or E5, which have different capabilities. Specifically for data protection with Purview, E3 will allow you, for example, to find some private information within Microsoft files, for example, and the automated remediation aspects are not there unless you upgrade to your E5. Take that further. One of the first steps that you actually need to take when you want to protect data is to classify it. So I'll give you an example. If you've purchased your Microsoft E3 licenses, your users will need to manually classify your documents, which means they'll need to go one by one into every document, click the sensitivity button and choose the right sensitivity level, which obviously we know doesn't work. I mean, that never works. A manual classification has never worked. So there is some automation in your E5 licenses. That's where we come in. Vendors like us, we come in and we add value by automating that process and actually by allowing you to get greater value from your Microsoft investment. It's a big investment, right? So vendors like us, we come in, we automate the process, we provide much richer analytics, much deeper and more granular data protection for data privacy, and better, and more enhanced malware prevention capabilities to augment your investment.
Awesome. We got another question that came in. So given that you're basically doing this level of analysis and providing alerts and information about data security events, how do you get logs or some sort of output to, say, a SIEM platform? Is that something that's supported?
No, so that actually is a really interesting point, because with the abundance of tools, you have so many cybersecurity tools in your, in your environment, and using every one of them as an analytics platform is difficult, especially if you're a large organization. So what we do is, on one hand, yes, we allow the analysis to be done within the Votiro platform, and we can integrate through syslog messages to any SIEM or XDR tool to really provide that richer context from what we found inside the file to these platforms, so things can be correlated and events can be analyzed.
Excellent. I had another one just come in. What is your integration with identity categories, say, like a Microsoft Entra, or does that play into with the way that policies are assigned?
Yeah, so obviously we integrate with Active Directory, with Azure AD, in order to, so as we integrate natively with Office 365 and your Teams environments and your OneDrive environment and more, the user context is needed for several reasons. The first one is in order to apply the policies, which is, for example, how do you want to mask information when it is sent to this user or this user group or not? That is number one, so setting policies, but also in order to allow you more visibility into who is either being targeted or who is doing something that they shouldn't be doing with private data. So obviously the technical way to do that is we sync back users from Active Directory, and we can use that.
Excellent. And probably got time for this one last question. Since you're tied into things like Microsoft 365, do you have any integration with things like adaptive authentication or step-up authentication as it relates to data security events?
So interesting question. And a lot of my background, I actually spent in that very interesting space. In the context of platforms like Votiro with data detection, authentication is being used by admins to authenticate into our platform. However, the aspect of authenticating a user into an application is very separate from the world of protecting that data. These are two adjacent views that both, at the end of the day, both data protection and identity protection focus at the end of the day on securing that private data, right? Just in two different ways. So there's a category in the market which deals with how to ensure that the right users get access to the right things, and only those right things, obviously in a zero trust fashion. But then that second part of the market is dealing with how to secure that data in real time, and how to ensure that that data is being dealt with the same zero trust principles, and that's exactly where we lie.
Awesome. Well, Eric, thank you so much for your presentation.